Weekly Power Standard and Lecture Video Introduction. So if you're watching this video, that means we're getting ready to start our weekly Power Standard learning process. And that also means you're probably getting ready to watch your first lecture video regarding a Power Standard. So I want to take the time to go over what a weekly Power Standard process looks like and some tips to help you master watching a lecture video. Now, for the first couple weeks, we're going to watch lecture videos in class. Eventually, you will be watching them at home. So this will always be a good tutorial review that you can go back to. So let's get started. So what is a Power Standard? Well, during the final week of the semester, you will take the English 2 ELC, which assesses your mastery on a set of literary skills. Now, the ELC contains samples of literature text and informational text that you'll be required to read and answer questions on. Now, essentially, the Power Standards are a series of skills that the ELC focuses on. And those skills are broken up into two tiers: literary text and informational text. Now, instead of trying to cover all 10 Power Standards every time we read a text, that would be exhausting and you would be lost. We take the time to learn and master each Power Standard skill and then apply that skill to the text we're reading this week. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like this. Essentially, you're going to be taught in a scaffolding sequence, and what I mean by scaffolding is that we take one step at a time. Doing it, I do it, then we do it together, and then you do it. So the first step is you're always going to get a Power Standard sheet. So our first Power Standard is Power Standard number 1, citing textual evidence. Now, when you get that sheet, you're always going to do what's called a how much do you know quizzer. It's 10 questions about that concept. How much do you know about that concept? You'll typically do it completely on your own. After that, you're literally going to go to Edpuzzle, and then you will watch your Power Standard. So this is step 1, the quizzer. Step 2 is after you get your quizzer, you're going to go to Edpuzzle and view your lecture video. From there, you're going to take notes in your course composition notebook. You also are going to want to put the most and very important points of the lecture video on your Power Standard worksheet. Now, once we have finished working with the lecture video, getting all the information we can out of it, we begin to do post-video activities. These activities are online, they're interactive, they're on paper, but every single thing you do will always be on this one sheet. So now we've gone through the post-video activities. We've done the activities. I've modeled some. We've done some together. You've done some. Now it's time to take your formative assessment. The formative assessment is going to allow me to put you into 3 groups. Based on your formative assessment score, you could be a level up. That means you pretty much have mastered the activity. You just need a couple more rounds of practice. You could also be a boost me up. That's somewhere in the middle. That means you haven't quite mastered it yet. You just need some review and some additional time practicing. You could also be a not quite there yet. That means you need some one-on-one instruction in mastering this skill. Now, to master and show mastery of this skill, you're going to do one of 6 activities depending on your level. Depending on your level, you could do all interactive based, you could do a scavenger hunt, but the final activity will always be a summative assessment, where you'll have one final chance to show your mastery. And typically that means it's another 10-question assessment where you have an opportunity to work with 2 different types of text. You answer the questions, and then based on your score, we determine if you have mastered that ability. Now, if you mastered that ability, that's great. That's awesome. But if you didn't, I then have some more tools that will help you in the coming weeks be able to say you've mastered this activity. The final activity after the sum of the assessments is what's called a gap. It's a goal adequate product, and it's always written based, where I'll give you an excerpt of a text or an image, and then you have to write a response. So what do I do with all that stuff? That's the kicker, right? How will I be graded? So essentially what I'm going to do is I am going to take your Quizzer score. I'm going to take your summative assessment score, and I'm going to take your completion of the PSOA, the Power Standard Objective Assessment Worksheet. And that's the worksheet that you got today. And you're going to get a score for each of those. So 25 points for your Quizzer, 45 points for your summative assessment, and 30 points for your PSOA. Now your Quizzer score pretty much is you did it or you didn't do it. So if you did it, it's either a pass or a fail. You did it or you didn't do it. If you don't do it, you don't get another opportunity to go back. It's either you did or you didn't. The summative assessment score is the big piece. That's 45 points. That's the final activity. Once we've done all the different learning activities, this is your chance to shine. So that's the biggest point. The PSOA is your completion of those activities, which is why it's worth 30 points. So the key to get the best score, and then once again, I take those 3 scores, and this is what I put into Power School. This one grade, and this grade is 45% of your overall grade, and you'll get one of these grades every week. So the key to all of this is making sure you have good lecture notes, that you understand the concept that's being taught in the lecture video, so you have as much information as possible when we start working on the skills. So these are some lecture video tips for mastery success. 1, never mute me. Most Quizzer questions stem from what I say, not what you see written. 2, don't be afraid to rewind. 3, know when to pause. 4, always write the VIPs, very important points. Don't be afraid to fast forward. When I model, you watch and recreate in your notes. And 7, rewatch, review, and compare. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to raise your hand, ask me, or email me. See you later.